The highly contentious bond notes, as we just mentioned in the introduction, will be in circulation by the end of October. Now, these notes are tradable and valid only in that Southern African country, and they have been introduced as an incentive, if you will, for exporters, and as a means also to ease a very crippling cash shortage that's present right now. Now, there has been a lot of very heated public resistance to these notes being introduced, however, with fears that they may herald a return to the sort of hyperinflation last seen in 2009 and the currency that, of course, was plagued by it, the Zimbabwean dollar. The central bank has reiterated that the printing of these notes will be monitored by an independent board and limited to a maximum of just $200 million.
By the end of the year, judging from what exports we've gone through right now, that by the end of the year will be $75 million. Will be in the market by 31 December 2016.
Right, let's have a live to Harare now. Farai Mokutuya is live in that particular city with more data on this story. Farai, let's start with some background on these bond notes. How are they being funded and how exactly will they work in practice?
Well, Rama, the Afrexim Bank has extended a facility to Zimbabwe, $200 million facility to incentivize exports. And what the central bank has decided to do to plug the leakage of cash out of the country is to come up with these bond notes, which are basically local bank notes that are only tradable and can only be used within Zimbabwe. And any exporter, whether a tobacco farmer, a gold miner, for instance, for every export that they make, if they're earning $100, for instance, they'll get an additional $5 as an incentive from the central bank, but that'll be paid out in bond notes.
What are these notes? Why are these notes the preferred solution to this cash crunch for Zimbabwean authorities instead of, say, the more orthodox, long-term fundamental problems being sorted, like lifting import restrictions, clearing arrears due to IFIs like the World Bank, the IMF, the African Development Bank, so that credit can start flowing back into Zimbabwe?
Well, Rama, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said long term. I think what the central bank is looking for now is a quick win, if you want to call it that. From previous experience, whenever cash has been injected into the market, people have, as quickly as it's come in, it's also come out because people withdraw that cash and are able to take it outside of the border, effectively externalizing that. So what bond notes will do, because they can only be used within Zimbabwe, is kill that. But what the central bank and monetary authorities here are also doing, they're using a multi-pronged approach to this. So yes, engagement with your IFIs are still going on, trying to plug those leakages at border posts and the financial system to plug the flow of money out of the country is also happening. But the ultimate panacea to the problems here is increasing productivity, getting companies to export more. It's a chicken and egg situation because what those companies are saying is for us to be more productive, we need capital. There's no capital here, and it's waiting on that engagement with the IMF, the World Bank, and the AFDB. Rama.
Indeed, all of which require some pretty hard decisions. Let's turn to one that the government has dodged fairly publicly. There's a bit of flip-flopping on this planned job cut. On the 8th of September, the government says we'll actually go ahead and downsize. Then earlier this week, we heard that's not going to happen. So if the civil service, which consumes over 90% of recurrent revenues, is not going to be downsized, how does the government then plan to cut its fiscal deficit?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, if you want to call it that. No alternatives have been put forward as solutions. Basically, what we've heard is that we're not going to cut salaries at this point. I think the engagement that is happening with the IMF and World Bank is what government may be pinning its hopes on, but also trying to generate and mobilize those resources domestically. And by that, I mean a plan that was announced by the finance minister last week and also reiterated by the central bank governor today, leveraging mineral resources to get cash. So perhaps mortgaging our platinum, our gold, our diamonds now, selling that off to be able to generate cash immediately.
Indeed, it's a pretty confusing picture in Harare. Thank you for the update. That's Farai Mokutuya. Of course, he covers that country and Zambia fairly extensively. He was joining us, of course, live from the Zimbabwean capital.